Okay, so I'm just going to introduce today's panelists and thank them once again for their tremendous support in this project. And it was a lot of work on their end, and we really, truly appreciate it that they were willing to share with you, their colleagues, the work that they've done. So today from Living Waters Catholic School, we have Ashley Floyd, the Director of Learning and Teaching, and Corina Fennell, the Curriculum Team Lead. We also have Terri Duncan, Associate Superintendent of Learner Services from Horizon School Division, and Chase Ellis, the Director of Professional Learning and Education Partner Relations from Foothills School Division. So thank you and welcome.
Okay, yes, as Rita said, welcome everyone. And I'm kind of the moderator today, and I'll be asking a question and then rotating through our three school divisions that are participating today. So first, in our previous session, we explored consistency, capacity, and support. Today, we're going to turn to practical approaches to advancing implementation, what it looks like when systems move from preparation into sustained adaptive action. And so we're going to start with our first question, and Terri, I will get you to be our first respondent. And this question is, as implementation evolves in your division, what feels most strategically important right now and why?
Thanks, Shan. I would say that as I think about implementation and as it continues in our division, something that I really am always thinking about is how our teachers are vulnerable when they're first starting out. I think that vulnerability comes because they feel like brand new teachers again. The structure and architecture and design of the curriculum is much different. As we head into junior high curriculum implementation, I think back to K to 6. I've always given our teachers permission to try new things, to not be experts, to take chances. And I think that that's one thing that I really am trying to keep in the forefront is that they're not experts, and I'm not an expert anymore either in this curriculum. There are pieces of the curriculum that I feel like I'm an expert in, and there are pieces that our teachers feel that they're still experts in. But the architecture and design has changed so much that we have to give them permission to feel like brand new teachers and to look for new resources and utilize also resources that they already have. We also have always taken an approach of not mandating. If it's optional implementation, we look for teachers that want to try that optional implementation. So those would be some things that I'm keeping in the forefront.
Thanks, Terri. Rogan, the last time we had our webinar, I think we made it so that when the speaker was speaking, they took over the screen. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We can definitely do that again. I apologize.
No worries. Thank you. And you and I are both pressing the buttons. I'll stop.
Okay. Sorry. Yes, Shan, do you want us to be sharing some things? Because is that why we're taking over the screen?
No, it's just nice to have a full view of the person who's
perfect.
Presenting.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't prepare anything to share.
No, this is something I prepared earlier. No. No, we're just because then people can really see you and identify who you are. And then the next time they're at a CAS event with you, they can go, oh, Terri, I remember what you said in that webinar series. All right. Next, I'll let Chase talk about their experience in Foothills. Chase.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I think I would just kind of build on what was just said. You know, we, from a strategic perspective, most recently with the social studies, have really been diving into resource development. So to give you a little bit of background, in the past implementations in K to 6, we had developed these transdisciplinary learning cycles that we're trying to promote with our teachers. I think what became apparent over this last implementation of social studies was when we developed those learning cycles, we took 15 highly engaged designers of learning, had them develop those cycles. And as time went on, what we're finding is that they are not necessarily as accessible to all of our teachers, new to the profession, or, like we've been saying, new to this curriculum, this architecture. So yeah, what feels most strategically important right now has actually evolved over time, because now I would say it's around resource development, and then creating opportunity for that instructional model of conceptual understanding, and how are we making sure that we're consistently using that model all across our K to 6.
Yeah, thanks, Chase, for sure. And last but not least, Ashley and Corina.
So one of the most important things for us right now is being proactive in having systems readiness for 7 to 9 curriculum implementation. We've learned a lot through our K to 6 implementation. It was a very quick implementation, so we started with the resources and what do teachers need and what could we give them right away that they could take into their classrooms. And so reflecting on that now and moving forward through all the learning curves in our work, we're realizing we need to do the work of understanding the curriculum first, and then we can set up our structures and our resources and things like that to support the implementation. One of the things that's really important to me as curriculum lead teacher and being in the schools and working with the teachers and school leaders is moving that shift of focus sometimes from content coverage to deep learning, right? And having targeted supports for subjects when needed, ensuring that our teachers not only know the content, but feel confident in delivering it in meaning and impactful ways so our students are ready for future successes. So those would be kind of the areas that we feel are important right now. And one of the things I've learned is that school leaders have to be part of this work. They're the ones that have the biggest impact in the schools, and they're the ones who will do the work and lead the work in their schools.
For sure, Corina, and that came up a lot in our conversations during our last webinar series, and we'll touch on that again today. But yes, that's such an important point. Okay, audience, it's your turn now, and we're going to get you to use the chat box to respond to the question on this slide. Yeah, so I'm thinking about your own context, participants. Where in your context is prioritization clear and where is it still emerging? So when we look at multiple curriculum shifts occurring simultaneously, prioritization becomes a leadership act. So where in your context is prioritization clear and where is it still emerging? And we'll just give you a few minutes to respond. And if you see something that someone else has written as a response and you want to respond to that, we can do that as well. Well, it is Monday, so we're going to give you grace. But thank you for the thoughtful comments that people did add. And, sometimes we have multiple priorities, and sometimes when we reflect on those priorities, there's maybe too many of them. So we just wanted to give you some food for thought and to be really clear on what your priorities are, or what you've prioritized currently, and what you will continue to prioritize as we move on. So professional learning and teacher-centered structures. Implementation advances when structures support professional agency rather than constrain it. So this time we'll start with Corina and Ashley. And the question for you is, what does a teacher-centered implementation structure look like in your division?
Okay, I think that we put that as one of our important focuses to make sure our teachers are very much embedded in the work that we do with curriculum. We have various different structures. There's times that we will bring in whole teams together to collaborate, to create things like that, like our common assessments, working to build those, our collaborative marking days, professional divisional learning day. So this will continue to give teachers the time to work together and share, and it creates that shared responsibility of the work with a division focus. We have many structures in place already that are on site in schools. And again, the teachers are always participating in these things, that the work that we do, like prioritizing our curriculum. I think this has been one of the most impactful things that we have done to date. It really gave the teachers time to dive deep into the curriculum, to actually build consistency across our division and understanding the curriculum. And it really gave them a chance to have their voice heard and ask questions. And it was a really honest conversations happening. It was a really great experience. Another thing to help teachers and bring them in to be part of the work is we hear from teachers that they need support with math instruction. That's one of our big areas this year. Teachers have said they're struggling with understanding it themselves and being able to do that work. The students using our surveys, feedback, things like that, students are asking for help. So we were brought in, we researched some programs that would align with the curriculum and align with our philosophy and our vision and goals. So we picked a common resource, and in doing that, we also provided the support of having consultants come into the schools to work with our teachers to support them that way as well. And we do the same with literacy and just being in the classroom, that elbow to elbow work, modeling, helping them plan, and doing all those kinds of things. Right now, where our focus is starting to go into our junior high curriculum, we're already starting to bring in teams of teachers starting in the next couple of weeks to start our dive into the curriculum. So I think using those structures, whether it's on school site, some of them are together, we kind of try to balance them and bring the teachers embedded into all of those structures.
Thank you. Chase.
Yeah, I think what stands out to me with this question is really about that ownership and agency. And you know, we have 450 teachers across our division, and probably that means that there are 450 different perspectives when it comes to classroom practice. We all, there's the tenets of good practice, but they all kind of come to life in different ways in the classroom. So I think it's really important from our perspective that we're providing opportunity for agency as teachers are implementing new curriculum in their classrooms. And that's just, also modeling that shared leadership and that, teachers have the opportunity to get messy with their new curriculum. They have the opportunity to, we have a community of practice structure where they work with other teachers in the same grade level, either in the school or sometimes they meet with our team here. So just really providing those opportunities for agency. The only other thing I would point out is that, and somebody made the comment when you were asking that last question around school leaders are vital in the process. And so when I'm thinking about teacher-centered implementation, it's really important for us that the school leaders are part of the sustainability plan for that professional learning moving forward.
Yes, and to always remember we all started as teachers first.
Yeah.
And Terri.
Sorry, I had to find the mute button. For us in Horizon School Division, what we started with is architecture and design in the Curriculum 101, and then we went into a Curriculum 201 where we talked about the cusps and what needed to be understood there from a student and a teacher perspective, as well as the guiding questions. And then we went into Curriculum 301 with all teachers, and we're doing the same with our junior high. In the Curriculum 301, we did move to a mapping, looking at assessment and unit creation. And so with that, we came up with some processes in place, such as we have a Google Drive for each grade level that teachers can share resources. We created curriculum cafes on Friday afternoons because many of our schools are out on Friday afternoons. We have lead teachers in literacy and numeracy and assessment, and we invited those teachers to be a part of our report cards and what is our reporting structure going to look like with the new curriculum. We used our teachers learning through collaboration groups that we've had in the past, which are division-wide PD days, to give teachers time to work on new curriculum and creations of units and resources. I would say that we utilized, of course, Alberta education funding for bringing in people to help, using APLC, using layers of literacy with Miriam and Michelle, making sure that we provided time for teachers to try resources that they wanted to maybe utilize in the K-6 curriculum before we bought division-wide. And then what we did with that is we had our teachers actually provide feedback. So, for instance, if they were using UFly or using Haggerty or using a program that was going to help them in the earlier years, they had to provide feedback that that would be something that should be purchased division-wide and had impact on student learning. So there had to be some reasons behind purchasing as a division. The other thing that we moved into is teacher sprints by Simon Breakspear, and having our teachers choose a sprint of 6 to 8 weeks with the new curriculum and something they wanted to try. And just using the Cultures of Thinking and Action book by Ron Richard and looking at those mindsets. Those were just some of the different things that will continue for our junior high. One of the documents I think that's very beneficial is we took for our curriculum mapping, we took what is the new outcome? Where did it come from? So if there was a tie to past curriculum and what grade level, and then what teachers may need to know in order to maybe teach that concept. So for instance, I can talk about junior high in particular, in the math. Students need to interpret rational and irrational numbers, that is in the new grade 8 math curriculum. And it's come from grade 9 rational, but grade 10 C irrational. Well, many of my grade 8 teachers won't know how to go about teaching that concept to kids. And so we're going to have to provide some PD and maybe even have some of the grade 10 and 9 teachers come in and help bring that down to a grade 8 level. So just looking at that preparation, and we did that in our K-6 as well in the mapping. I know we're not talking about junior high, but it all comes together. So that's just some of the things that we've done in Horizon.
So lots of great strategies and information all of you provided, and I'm just going to go a little bit deeper with this. If you think about all of those strategies and structures that you've put in place, what would be one that you've seen has the biggest, so far, the biggest bang for the buck? And maybe we'll start with Terri this time.
I would say for us, it was the curriculum cafes on the Friday afternoons, so much so that we're heading out of the K-6 curriculum, and my K-6 teachers want to continue the curriculum cafes on Friday afternoons. And they're coming in on their own time, but it gives them that afternoon of collaborating with their colleagues. I stole it from Joanne Pittman, who is now the superintendent at CBE, but that time she was working from Medicine Hat Public. And I adapted it and made it more of our own division type thing. But I think that it just gives teachers time to collaborate with colleagues on a Friday afternoon and create resources or units or talk about assessments at their grade level and or subject area. And it's something that I will continue to do all the way through high school as well.
Thanks, Terri. And just for our audience participants, at the end, we'll have a bit of time for you to ask questions of each of our school divisions. So if you have any questions that is coming from their response to our questions, you'll have opportunity to seek clarity or more information regarding anything that they've shared. Okay, Chase, anything that stands out for you?
Yeah, I think we're seeing initial success right now is we've hired a couple of, like, the role description is a curriculum design teacher, and we're having those people do some resource development here, but also then field testing those resources in classrooms with teachers. So we're getting some nice uptake as far as, what can or does this look like in a grade 3 classroom or a grade 5 classroom, and then having those debrief conversations afterward to, kind of unpack some of the details and provide feedback. So that's one structure right now that we're seeing nice success with. The other would be the work of our summer design team. We have about 17 people that we pull together for those first few weeks in the summer. And really, they spent most of last July just talking about what Terri was saying around mapping curriculum. And we pulled in some of our junior highs last year when those were just in draft form. And it actually, I think we saw an emotional benefit in that it alleviated a little bit of trepidation that our junior high teachers were having. And it alleviated a little stress for me as well, because I got to see that the architecture is going to look the same throughout. And from our end of things, we were a little bit worried that there might be a different appearance or a different structure to the junior high. So yeah, those are kind of the areas that we're seeing most success right now.
And Corina and Ashley?
I have two, and again, it goes with, I think, what Terri and Chase said. It's that mapping of the curriculum. When we mapped out our curriculum, we were very intentional about how we mapped out each subject area to kind of build a whole concept. Sorry, my computer is telling me to restart. We were very intentional to try to set it up so that we get a lot more of the co-curricular aspect and the holistic concept approach rather than just various outcome here kind of a thing, individual, and to get that transfer of learning going. The other one that I think was critical and very important is that prioritizing of the curriculum process. Having the time for teachers to actually sit down and really read through the whole curriculum intently. We looked at, okay, what do students need to know at the end of this? Do we know what that is? What does that look like? What prior knowledge do they have? Because a lot of times we found out, oh, they know that. Well, no, that's an assumption on our part. So it really slowed down that process. It got teachers to actually start looking back. Okay, what do they learn back here? What do they learn going forward? Okay, what's the big picture here? What do we need our kids to know? And actually we took time to, okay, now what are some achievement indicators? How are we going to know our students succeeded with this? So going through that process, it was a very slow process, but it was the most worthwhile, I think, that we did, the work that we did in this. And the teachers are actually like very, it just created that consistency. They understood it. We were all on the same page. It was a great experience.
Thank you. So this time I'll start with you, Chase, and this is just kind of, we know how important it is to have people trust. Trust is such a big piece in moving in change and moving things forward. So how have either pilot programs or a kind of a phased approach to implementing the new curriculum help to build trust?
So I guess for us, a couple of different things. We've tried to um, balance being on the cutting edge of new curriculum when piloting opportunities were and are available, um, while also making sure that we're setting the system up for success and having some continuity. So, um, I guess in terms of building trust, we've really tried to keep our finger on the pulse of our teachers. A couple of years ago, last year, I don't know, all the years run together now. We made a conscious decision not to pilot the social studies. We had just come off of a few years of implementing ELAL and math and phys ed and wellness, and science. So I think for us, we had the opportunity to build trust by making conscious decisions about the wellness and well-being of our teachers, who are ultimately responsible for the wellness and well-being of the kids in their class. The other part of that too is I think it's much easier for people to develop trust when they feel successful. So having, again, making conscious decisions about what to pilot and when by gathering feedback from our teaching staff who might say, this is just too much for us right now. Us understanding that if we're not setting them up for success in the beginning, it's hard to develop trust over time. That's basically been our approach.
Thank you. Corina and Ashley. Corina?
So for us, we've used pretty much a 3-phased approach so far, and it kind of just naturally evolved that way. Our first phase was like setting up those foundations and resource development. And in doing that, I think we provided that stability and that our teachers knew that, okay, we're here, we're providing for you, we're here to get things for you, like you're not in this alone. So I think that built the trust. Then when we moved in phase 2, when we started to go into that deep learning and prioritization, it was being responsive to feedback from our teachers. The trust was strengthened when our teachers across the division said that they had challenges in attending so many in-person meetings and being out of their classrooms, and our geographical location we're so far apart. So it became difficult. So we listened and we changed our approach. Instead of going for multiple teams coming together, we went with one central team that went into schools. So providing that, with the challenges of substitute teachers in our rural context, it's hard to get coverage in the classrooms. And I think teachers and school leaders really appreciated that change in approach. Taking that time to really listen to the teachers with their feedback. What's working, what's not working, what do you need? Those kinds of things has also demonstrated a willingness for us to really look at what we're asking them to do, make changes, and just based on their feedback. Being intentional with our time with them, right? And then in phase 3, we're going into that targeted support and future readiness. So it's, again, that trust of being purposeful with our collaboration and active coaching, listening to the voice of the team members. The trust was really good with finding those targeted supports. Teachers came and said, hey, we need this. So that's where we kind of supported them. And for future readiness, our junior high teachers are coming to us and they're like, we're ready. We want to go. We need this in place. I'm like, okay, so we're going in and we're going with implementation for a lot of it coming in next year. And they're asking for it and just trying to provide them and get them going and get them all the things that they need.
Awesome. And last but not least, Terri.
I think I'll say thank you to the Board of Trustees of Horizon School Division, because when I went to them and I asked about piloting in the very beginning of the K-6 curriculum, and I proposed that we allow teachers to jump in for those early adopters, and the board wholeheartedly said, well, you do what you think is best. I think that's where the trust began. we didn't decide to do math across the division or social across the division or language arts across the division. We asked teachers in each grade and schools who wants to pilot. And this, if you can remember back in the very beginning, I know it seems like a long time ago, but many divisions chose not to pilot in the beginning. Horizon was one of not very many, I think a handful, that decided to go ahead. And it was because we had teachers who were interested in wanting to try the curriculum and provide feedback to Alberta education. I think one of the things that I've always kind of mentioned in our division is we need to have a rule voice. And in order for us to have a rule voice, we need to be part of this piloting and implementation and be able to share our perspective from a rural school division. I think also giving teachers permission to make mistakes and then it wasn't going to be career-ending or hurt children was also how we build trust. So knowing that, again, I'll say we are not experts. We weren't experts in the beginning and nor will we be, I don't think, for a number of years. There's still lots of learning to happen. And as good teachers do, we reflect and we consider making changes, not just based on the curriculum that we have, but based on the students in our classroom and how we need to scaffold for those kids in the classroom because they come in all different learning levels and we need to be prepared for that. And each year is a new year. We can't just laminate those unit plans or lesson plans and go and keep going. And I know that that's not what's happening or it should not be happening, but so I think that, and I think that the permission to learn. So we should always be learning as educators and just giving our teachers that permission to learn and dive in and learn as we go and learn from our mistakes. We want kids to learn from our mistakes. We want our teachers to learn from mistakes as they go along and giving them that teacher autonomy, normalizing the uncertainty that we all feel brand new, including myself. Creating that space, a safe space for them to think and risk take, I would say would be what I would highlight.
Thanks, Terri. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we're going to go on to the next slide. So now we're going to dig into the idea of navigating resistance and instructional shifts. Often in times of change, we face resistance. And I'm just going to ask our participants how they have approached resistance in ways that maintain dignity and forward movement. So I don't think I've started with Corina for a bit. So maybe Corina, will start with you this time.
So for resistance, understanding the source of the resistance is the key. You have to understand that part first. So for us, is acknowledging that resistance. When teachers feel uncomfortable with stuff like instructional philosophies, changes in curriculum, we respond with we're here to support you. So whether that means for me as curriculum lead going into the schools to support the teachers and system leaders, or we get consultants to come in and help us. The consortium has been amazing in supporting us through the work of the curriculum. So that has really helped to keep me moving us forward. And it's okay. We said it's okay to make mistakes. I know other people have said it too, but we've always said that we'd rather you try something and it not work than to not try it, right? So we've really communicated that. Validating their experiences as in the classroom and working through the curriculum by allowing the teachers to work through it and be messy in it before we kind of make some formal decisions on things has really worked. And it gives them the time to develop that professional expertise in the subject area. We're not experts at this right from the start, and we do need that time. And we're saying it's okay to take that time and develop that. And again, it's that support, being in the classroom, the elbow to elbow work, whether it's with our school leaders, teachers, we're all a team and we kind of come in together and support. And we believe in getting better every day together, just taking those baby steps and keep moving forward.
Terri.
I was just jotting down some notes. I too agree with Corina in that you do have to recognize that there is going to be resistance, and that recognize that where the resistance is coming from is very critical. I think that back when we first started, there were many teachers that were like, we've been through this. We went through it with the NDP government and it didn't come across, so it's not going to happen this next upcoming year either. So recognizing that messaging, I think messaging from division office and from sharing what Alberta Education is saying and making sure that you have clear communication about the expectations and that this isn't going away and that we do need to jump in with both feet if we are able to. Messaging of sharing of the resources, the units, the planning that's happened. I have on our admin agenda every month, it's called Cup of Learner Supports. And in that is all of the documents that have been created by all of the wonderful people in this call that have shared things, but also things that have been created in our own division for curriculum. And it's a running document that teachers can access when they're looking for something to help them in the classroom with new curriculum, or maybe an assessment. I also think that I utilize my instructional coaches to go in and support. So when a teacher needs time, giving them the time. So providing some of that time through my budget areas where I can say, or through our ATA PD. We work really closely with our ATA PD local, and they're willing to give teachers time to meet with the instructional coaches. So giving them a half day or a day where they can sit down and plan together and collaborate, or do it with another teacher in the division, a colleague that they feel that they really know well and aren't afraid to say, hey, I'm really unsure about this piece. Can you help me? What are you doing? Just creating those spaces for people, and recognizing that they need the help, and when they ask for help, making them feel I don't know what the word is that I'm looking, but I always say, oh, awesome, we'll help you. Like, it's not, what, you need help? I don't want to make them feel like you shouldn't be asking. I'm like, oh, great, I've got tons of things I can help you with. So just that excitement and collaboration.
Thank you, Terri. And last but not least, Chase.
Yeah, I think for us, it is about understanding that teachers are all in different spots in this journey of being instructional leaders in their schools. So, taking that mindset to begin with allows for the opportunity to, like the other groups were saying, make mistakes, get messy with the curriculum. But I think it's really important that there is that culture of relational trust. And so, like Terri just said, it's not going away. So what can we do from a learning services perspective to help support people that are implementing day to day in their classrooms? What do we have to offer so that when there is resistance, there's also a path out of that resistance, if that makes sense? And I think, along those lines of relational trust, we have been really, really intentional in supporting again our school leaders during our Foothills Administrator Association meetings so that they can go back to their schools on their professional learning days or in their PLTs or their COPs or whatever collaborative structures that they have designed in their own schools so that they can lead the work. Because I think that idea of resistance can really be mitigated with solid relational trust. And so that's kind of, we're taking that approach of empowering our school leaders in order to lead that work because they've got the tightest relationships with the teachers that are implementing in their schools.
Thanks, Chase. I'm going to go back to this idea of resistance because, and Chase has touched on it a bit, kind of a proactive way to deal with it within the school leadership. But we do have people who are, yes, I've seen this come and go, and no matter how much we say, oh yes, we'll support you and you need this support, they're still not quite jumping on the bus. Can any of you maybe think of some or some ones in your division who you've had that experience with and just how that has been approached?
So I can speak to that if you don't mind.
No, I'd love you to.
So yeah, when we were implementing the K-6 science, at that time we had a structure where 3 times throughout the year we were bringing grade level teams in to do some professional learning around the science curriculum. We did have, I want to be careful about how I frame this. So there was some resistance to change, and really it was about a certain group of people not feeling as though they had agency in what that professional learning looked like. So it really required me to go kind of back to the drawing board as far as how can we design professional learning that meets the needs of everybody while also providing that agency or that autonomy. And really, at the end of the day, it boiled down to me visiting the schools of those teachers that were part of that group and having one-on-one conversations with them around this is the direction that we're headed in. How can we make this, most amenable to your teaching practice? I think we get a couple of things once in a while. We look at it from our learning services, and as we're not just change management, we're change leaders, and we try to provide that insight for our teachers. As everybody in this meeting knows, it's been endless change over the last few years. So, once we look at it from a change leadership perspective and develop those relationships with people who might be resisting, then for me, it's about being face to face and elbow to elbow and proving that we have something to offer and that we can support each other through all kinds of change.
Thanks, Chase. Does anyone else want to add anything?
Jan, I'll add
Yes.
a little bit. I think also sometimes you have to be willing and able to have those crucial conversations. And I think putting students in the forefront, I think that all educators go into education because they want to do what's best for students. If I think about a teacher who at that time didn't want to do the new pew, and the principal and I recognized that the old curriculum was still being utilized, it took a crucial conversation with that individual teacher, recognizing that, hey, we know you've submitted your year plan. This is not new curriculum. This is the past curriculum. And there are pieces in this curriculum that you're missing because of the financial literacy or the wellness piece that is not built into the old curriculum. You have 30 days to fix it, and we will support you in doing so. But it's not okay because your students are missing out on the current curriculum. And so maybe sometimes human services has to get involved. Sometimes you have to have those crucial conversations and even take it further to a letter of direction or to supervision and evaluation. But I think that as people in learner services, sometimes we try, but in my principal role, before I was in this role, there were people that I had to give that letter of direction to, or that I had to go to the supervision and evaluation. And I think that's where we lean on our principals, and we help them by leading them in the right direction.
I think what Terri is speaking to that always kind of plays around in my mind is sometimes the kindest thing we can do for people is the most difficult conversations. But like Terri says, it sets them on the path to be successful in what they're doing.
For sure. And that whole idea of student-centeredness, if it weren't for those kids, we wouldn't be here, right? Yeah, for sure. Thank you, both of you. Okay, my next question that I'll get all three of you to respond to is, what instructional shifts are you seeing that are happening due to this change in curriculum and the work that you're doing that are truly having a positive impact on student success? Chase, I'm going to pick on you first this time, dear.
I was wondering if you might. I thought we were going to make eye contact. I think I would say what we're seeing is that focus on conceptual understanding and deep and transferable learning. And as we've implemented over the last few years, I'm seeing a much greater uptake in teacher design for learning that promotes deep and transferable learning and conceptual understanding. And I think we're seeing it more fulsomely in a kind of transdisciplinary way that we probably weren't seeing when we were working within old curriculum that didn't have consistent architecture. So yeah, that would be a big area of growth, I think, for our team. And like I said before, everybody is at kind of different stages in the way that they're designing and planning for student learning, but we're definitely seeing rich design as far as transdisciplinary learning and development of those learning cycles.
Thank you, Chase. Corina. You're getting your exercise today, Corina.
We didn't necessarily pick the best room for this today, so a little delays here. I'll just kind of add on to what Chase said, because I very much agree with him. Many of our schools are really digging into the work of surface deep and transfer learning and what that means, what that looks like in the classroom beyond common language, which we believe is very important, but to the point where our leaders are actually going to start like building themselves some rubrics around how do I know? What am I looking at? To help them understand what they're seeing in the classrooms at that leadership level as well. Instructional shifts, especially within K-6, we're seeing a lot, which is very exciting. We're seeing a lot of teachers grounding more in research. So we're really pulling away from old habits or easy access tools that may or may not be great. Not that we're going to name teachers pay teachers, but we're just going to, you have to make sure that what we're doing is really grounded in good research, and that you're spending your time in something that is most likely to pay off in the classroom for these children. We only have them for a short time. So grounding in that research, there is a real understanding and excitement and motivation starting to build with understanding how children learn. Understanding, if we talk about reading, how do children learn how to read, and what does that look like with this new curriculum. The beautiful thing about the new curriculum is it's right in there. You know, the structured literacy and reading science is bang right in there. So we appreciate that. And we're seeing an intentionality around that I've not seen with teachers in the past.
Excellent. And last but not least, Terri.
I'm going to put it out there. I don't think we're there yet. I think there's still lots of growth in the understanding. And also, I think the one thing that I think that it has led to in our division is a more collaborative, inquiry-based learning approach. But I will say, and I will use teachers pay teachers, because there was so many subjects and so little time, and also just coming out of COVID, I will also use that word. Many teachers have relied on resources like super simple sheets, teachers pay teachers, and it's out of survival. Now, are we shifting from that? Yes, we are, because we're having those conversations. Are we there yet? No, I don't think we are. Will it take time? Yes, I think as teachers become more comfortable in the curriculum itself and feel like they are experts again, even though we say take risks and even though we say don't use these things, I mean, I don't have my rose-colored glasses on. I know they're being utilized. It's through conversations, through collaboration, through conversations with principals, through creating documents like Ashley mentioned, like how do you know? Are you in your classrooms doing instructional supervision? What are you seeing? What do the plans look like? What resources are they utilizing? Are you willing to have those conversations with your teachers when they aren't using good materials, good, rich, sound instructional practices? Having all of I think we're in this for a long haul, and it's going to take time. And we also have to recognize it's going to take time. It's not something that's going to change overnight.
Thank you. I'm going to get Rogan to put the slideshow back up now because we have another opportunity for our participants to participate. And the question in the slide is, and that we would like you to respond to in the chat, is how has your own leadership thinking shifted as you have navigated resistance? So how has your own leadership thinking shifted as you have navigated resistance? So again, respond in the chat. And if you see something that someone else has written and you want to respond to that, do that as well. And we'll give you a couple of minutes here. So as we've heard and we know, I'm going to make sure. Implementation is not only about compliance, it's also about innovation. And so the question for our participants, our panel today is, how are you using locally developed AI tools to support deep transferable learning for both staff and students? Oh, and we'll start with Terri this time.
You're not going to like my answer. We're so new into this journey and things are changing so quickly. We haven't jumped really into much with students. We've started with focus groups for our administrators, our teachers, and we will get to students and parents eventually. We want to know what it is that our staff are utilizing and using. The only tools that we have kind of opened up for staff is Notebook LM, Gemini, because it's part of our Google environment. And teacher time machine. Just about said teachers pay teachers. It's really on the forefront. But we haven't really opened it up. We have had teachers ask for Notebook LM for students. And because they can then take an excerpt of reading and bring it and scaffold it for kids that are struggling. So we are working with our working groups, and then we'll make some decisions from there and do what's best for the entire division, knowing that we need to keep with POPA and ATIA and all of the new legislations and regulations coming out. We need to keep privacy and student information safe. So we're going slow, I guess, to go deep.
And I loved your answer, Terri. Chase.
So we've been pretty fortunate. Our technology services team works closely with our learning services people. So at the beginning of this school year, so back in August, we developed a couple of different tools that we're using here quite regularly. One is called CART, Communication and Reporting Tool, and the other is a design. Oh my gosh, it's gonna slip my mind, but it's basically an AI tool helped to help our teachers design cross-curricular or transdisciplinary learning tasks. We also have a teacher, a junior high teacher that's spent a lot of time this year using AI tools to develop rubrics. We primarily live in Microsoft universe right now. We don't use a lot of, I shouldn't say this, at our level, we don't use a lot of Google, but I know it's widely used with our teachers. So the reason I just pointed out those two particular tools is because we have developed them locally here. And what we've done, and I'm going to butcher this because this is not my area of expertise, but we took those bots and directed them at all of our internal documents. So, our system of reporting documents, any internal rubrics that have been created previously, it's pointed towards the TQS and the LQS and the Education Act. So there's really tight guardrails around those tools so that they're specifically dialed into what we want, what are the primary documents that we want our teachers using here in the Foothills School Division. So it's not just kind of out in the world of the internet. It's very dialed into what we want. But that's typically right now only with our teachers and our admin. So we're not using those tools widely with students right now. They're basically design tools. They're to help our teachers communicate more efficiently and effectively. That being said, we are in the process of developing an artificial intelligence framework that we can use across our system. We're still just in the initial process of, grappling with things like what does this mean for students in terms of assessment? What does this mean for the way that parents approach teaching and learning of their kids? All huge questions that we're only now starting to synthesize. And I think we need to get that really tightened up before we would ever look at developing tools where we would have students using them widely.
Thanks,
And
Chase.
it's big work, and honestly, it scares me. Like I've been the person that just, is pretty sure that AI is going to, destroy the world. And I speak nicely to my Alexa all the time because I don't want her to get mad at me.
Fair enough. And Corina.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, we brought in everybody in our school division. We do a day a year when everybody comes together. And during that day, we brought in a guest speaker who specializes in this area. And he did a really nice job of showing teachers the strengths and the challenges of AI use with students. So he gave them like a stoplight sequence of when you tell your kids it's red, yellow, green with access to AI, and even convinced some of our most rigid teachers that AI can be used for good, even in English. 30. So it was actually a really nice little, and then it just sort of like sat for a bit. And now we have developed our own AI tool. So that was in collaboration with Honeybee Logic and a professor out of the University of Calgary. And so this tool is specific to Living Waters. We got to load in all of our foundational documents. We got to load in documents. We're a Catholic school division, so we got to load in the documents that pertain to Catholic education. We got to name it, so it's actually named after Saint Carlos Acutis. So that was kind of neat, and it exists for us. And the tool, we loaded in a lot of research. So it's not just built off of anything that's out there. It will filter to the research that we've loaded into it. Even right down to if you want something that is considered a performance task versus a play-based task, we actually had to load in the research of the definition of those two things. So load in, I don't know, it's in the cloud somewhere, wherever the techie people put the research, but it's in there. So our teachers use this tool to help with planning. And so when they go in to Acutis, they can choose their grade levels, they can choose their subjects, it can be multi-subject, and it helps them with their planning. They can do unit plans, they can do lesson plans, all those types of things, knowing that there's the parameters around it for our foundational documents and our Catholic context. We brought our teachers together to sort of play with it with the professor from the University of Calgary, and we wanted to see, first, do they understand what AI is, what it is capable of, and what some of the limitations of it is? So that was the first learning piece. And then it came to, okay, build some lessons, provide some feedback. So it's a constant honing of the AI tool's learning itself. And when we asked teachers about whether or not they wanted the AI to have the capability to produce an assessment tool to go with the lessons, they said they did not. They were quite clear in that, no, they love the idea of having it generate plans, but the assessments, they still wanted to dig into those, and they wanted to dig into them because they wanted to understand the curriculum better. So they sort of knew that if they gave it all over to AI, there was the risk of them being pushed to think critically about how to assess and what this would look like. So we do have our own AI tool. It's really nifty. It's coming along. More and more teachers are starting to use it. It takes a little touch longer than just popping it into good old Gemini, but you're getting a better quality lesson for our context.
Very interesting. Thank you. Okay, so we're cognizant of the time, so we're actually going to switch now into kind of our final question of the session, and we're going to be exploring leadership mindset during this question. So I think I'll start with Terri this time. And so Terri, if you could name one leadership mindset that's essential for sustaining curriculum implementation over the next 3 years, what would it be?
I would say I'm going to name it permission-based leadership. And why I say that is it for me, that word emphasizes the trust, the patience, professional autonomy, recognizing that meaningful change happens when educators feel empowered to learn, take risks, and grow together over time, recognizing that we're all going to feel like beginning teachers again as we go and move through new curriculum together, and that we don't have to be experts. We just need to know that we will grow to be experts in the new curriculum, and that it's time for change. I would say the one thing that I was really excited about with the new curriculum, it wasn't the math, but it was the English language arts and the science. And social and English, well, we'll get over it and we'll move. And even the Pew, like I really liked how they embedded wellness and financial literacy into the physical education piece. Science, K to 6, it needed to change. It was so outdated and old. And the kids are loving it. Like I hear from teachers that they're loving the new science curriculum, and the teachers were excited about the science curriculum. So I think change is hard, but we need to have that permission based leadership to make mistakes and to learn together.
Thank you. Corina and Ashley.
I love that, Terri. I'm going to start with that. Wish I had thought of it. It's really great. I think it's funny you had a full end quote up there, and it's change agents that comes to mind for me. As Terri said, it was time for change in a lot of areas. Change can be scary. It can be uncomfortable, and how we approach that, we need to understand change, and we need to understand how human habit cycles happen and how they're really hard to get out of. So understanding change as what it is, and how we as just human beings deal with change is really important. But also, as we're moving, you need to keep moving. You need, you're not a tree, you got to move. So we need to keep moving and build that momentum up, because we do have very good, capable people, but change can be a little scary. So the whole system has to support that, both through K to 6 and giddy up for junior high.
Thank you. And Chase.
Yeah, I would just echo what both the other groups said. For me, it's really trying to put that focus on shared leadership and collective efficacy. And when we take that mindset, we don't need to be the experts. We don't need to be the sole purveyors of all things new curriculum. We get to share the responsibility in that. We get to look at it from a collaborative lens. And we get to take a little bit of the pressure off of that feeling of, my job as the classroom teacher is to implement all these new curriculums. If we can take that shared leadership perspective, we can all own different parts of that. And it also then provides opportunity for all stakeholders to bring their own perspective and their own wisdom to the work of curriculum implementation.
Thank you. So we're getting close to the end of our time, and so we would just like to open it up for any of the people that are participating in this webinar to ask any questions they might have of the panelist. We would ask that you would type your question into the chat, and then we will ask any of the panelists who would like to, or who the question is addressed to respond. Corrine.
Hey, I was going to type and I'm like, oh, that seems like a lot of work for a Monday afternoon, and I just don't feel like doing that. But I really wanted to thank our panelists today, and I'm continually grateful for the collaboration in our province. When I stepped into this role 5 years ago, curriculum was just rolling out, and this wasn't, I had no experience. I didn't have the background, I thought. But I had these other things percolating, and it didn't take me very long to realize that every division across the province, we were all heading in the same direction, just maybe getting there in a bit of a different way. But everybody has been so collaborative and really vulnerable and very forthright about their journey. And I leave today's session knowing that 3 other school divisions are thinking the same way that Grand Prairie Public School Division does, or they think differently, and they've got a couple of different strategies or something that I wrote down that's like, hadn't necessarily thought about that. But it brings assurance to our division and to me leading this work that I know I can reach out to people and we're all in the same pathway. So thank you very much to each of the 3 divisions today. I really appreciate your sharing and your insight. That was really, really important for me today.
Thank you, Corina. Yes, and Corina shared at our third our third seminar. Got a little out of order. Well, I again would just like to thank our panelists, Ashley and Corina from Living Waters Catholic School Authority, Terri, Duncan from Horizon School Authority, and Chase Dina from Foothills School Authority. I just really appreciate your willingness to do this with us and your openness and your being vulnerable and messy in the work that you've been sharing. So thank you so much. And we would like to remind you that our final session will be on April 28th at 2:30. And we'll have 3 new school divisions open and willing to share at that session. And just a reminder that curriculum implementation is not linear. It's relational, strategic, and adaptive. And we appreciate all of your leadership in advancing this work across Alberta. And so have a great Monday evening, everyone, and we'll see you again soon.
Jan and Rita, I'd like to thank you for your work in this project. And yeah, you're pulling it all together. So thank you for all the work that you're doing on this as well.
Thanks, Terri.